Nina and the Sky Garden. Nina was a curious 9-year-old girl who lived in a small village by the sea where the houses had red roofs and the roads were lined with wildflowers, and every evening she and her grandmother walked to watch the sunset paint the sky with orange and pink. But one night after the full moon rose she saw a silver light drifting down from the stars and landing softly in her garden, so she ran outside and found a glowing feather on the daisies, and as she picked it up a gentle voice whispered, "Follow the light to find the Sky Garden," which made her heart beat with excitement and a little fear, so she wrapped the feather in a clean handkerchief, slipped it into her pocket, and quietly woke her best friend Lucas, who lived next door and loved adventures as much as she did. And Lucas shivered in his pajamas but agreed at once, so they packed small bags with bread and cheese sandwiches, 2 bottles of water, a warm sweater for Nina, a small flashlight for Lucas, a notebook and pencil for both of them, and Nina also took her grandmother's old compass with a tiny star carved on the back. By the time their parents said goodbye and reminded them to be home by sunrise, Nina and Lucas were already at the edge of the village, where the road turned into a soft grassy path leading into the forest, and Pip, Lucas's little dog, trotted ahead sniffing the air while Nina and Lucas munched sandwiches and listened to the soft song of crickets and frogs. And as they walked deeper the moonlight made the leaves glow silver and the path looked covered in tiny diamonds. And every so often the compass glowed and pointed toward an old oak tree whose wide trunk was carved with a star, and at its base they found the first of many glowing stones that shone like spilled starlight, and Nina picked one up and held it in her hand before placing it gently back, and the stone's glow grew stronger as if telling her she was on the right path. And Lucas found a second stone that glowed blue like the sea under the moon, and they followed a line of these stones that sparkled in different shades, soft green like new leaves, pale pink like dawn, bright gold like sunrise, deep purple like a distant galaxy, until the forest seemed to open behind a low rock wall covered in tangled ivy and moss, and in its center was a wooden door carved with clouds and flowers that shimmered like silver thread. And Nina reached out and touched one carved flower, and the door swung open without a sound to reveal a winding staircase lit by pale yellow orbs floating in the air like lanterns. Holding hands, they carefully climbed until they stepped into a vast cavern whose walls glowed with hundreds of tiny lights, and in the center stood a marble archway leading into the Sky Garden. And when they walked through they gasped to see a floating island drifting among clouds with trees whose leaves looked like emerald glass, flowers that glowed softly in every color of the rainbow, and a pond whose water shone like liquid silver under the moon. And Pip barked in delight and jumped onto a smooth stone bench as the air filled with the scent of jasmine and rain. Then the gentle voice, sounding like wind through leaves, called, "Welcome, young friends, to the Sky Garden. We have waited for the feather's light." So Nina took the glowing feather from her pocket and gently placed it on the pond's silver surface, and immediately ripples of moonlight spread across the island, making every flower glow warmer in shades of pink, gold, blue, green, red, and purple, and sending soft music like distant laughter through the air. And Lucas's eyes filled with joy while Pip watched petals sway. The voice said, "Thank you for bringing starlight to our garden. Please help us keep its glow strong." And Nina and Lucas nodded, so the voice told them, "You must plant a seed from the heart tree at sunrise when the first bird song awakens the world." And suddenly a path of moonlit petals appeared, leading them to a towering tree with a ribbon-twisted trunk and pearly white leaves, and at its base lay a single glass seed as big as a marble pulsing with warm light like a heartbeat. And Lucas read an inscription on a stone next to the tree, "Plant with kindness, water with hope, guard with love." So they dug a small hole in soft cloud soil, placed the seed inside, covered it with moon dust that drifted like snowflakes, and whispered, "Grow strong for every heart." And at once the seed sprouted, shooting a glowing sapling skyward while the flowers and floating orbs sang a new song that rose higher and brighter than before. But as dawn approached the sky on the island grew pale, and the voice said, "Your task is done. Follow the stones home before the gate closes." So the glowing stones reappeared to guide them down the hill, out through the marble archway back into the cavern, up the lantern-lit stairs, and through the wooden door, which closed softly behind them and became hidden by ivy once more. and they followed the stones into the forest under the first rosy light of sunrise and the song of waking birds until they reached the village edge, where their families waited with blankets and warm milk. And Nina told her grandmother every detail of the sky garden, the glowing flowers, the singing orbs, and the heart tree seed, and her grandmother hugged her and said, "Your courage and kindness have painted the sky with new light," while Lucas's mother kissed his cheek and said, "Your brave heart helped magic bloom again," and tired Pip curled up in Nina's arms. That night Nina placed the star feather on her bedside table, opened her notebook, and wrote, "Tonight we saved the sky garden with a feather and a seed." We learned that kindness plants magic, and as she drew glowing flowers and the heart tree she smiled, then closed her eyes to dream of the island among clouds, knowing that one day she and Lucas would return to share its light and that wherever kindness and courage meet, magic will always find a home.